at 3:15. But before we get to the game, it's been a crazy offseason, even to the degree of the regular season when it comes to ups and downs and realignment in the Pac-12. A report from Yahoo is saying that the league is continuing on as a two-member conference. Now, they've had some discussions with the Mountain West about a 1 or 2 year alliance. What's the holdup? And joining us now, I want to get his opinion, as he's always nice enough to kind of talk everything, when it comes to Pac-12, and we'll get a baseball prediction from him too. But Roxy Bernstein now from the Pac-12 Network. Hey, Roxy, when the dust from this mess settles with realignment, what is your expectation on what the conference will look like next year?
Nothing would surprise me. As you were alluding to, could we see it operate as a two-team league? I think that's a possibility.
Yeah.
And if there's a special waiver exemption that Oregon State and Washington State can qualify for as they try to maybe reload for 2025 and the 2024, whatever. I don't know. All these years are confusing me right now. Yeah, 25, 26. That's what I'm getting at. Because with all this money that's due from the NCAA units, and it really is an interesting saga, a soap opera, if you will, with these court hearings, the restraining order that was granted. But I could see it because the other schools have vacated their spots at the table, and that's what this court hearing is going to decide. Do Washington State and Oregon State have the ultimate power in terms of how this league proceeds? And look, at some point, I really think that common sense will get a hold of people. We'll revert back to the regional rivalries and matchups in a regional league. Football may be its own entity, but it's just moronic that we're going to have every other sport try to do these cross-country conferences. It's just asinine.
Roxy Bernstein, Pac-12 Network, joining us here on Fox Sports 910 with Rock Minuch and Jimmy B. All right, you get the luxury of coming to our beautiful city. The weather's perfect. Washington State, they've kind of hit a bump in the road a little bit. You saw what Arizona State did against Washington last week. This is a game that I think a lot of, at least Sun Devil fans, myself included, could be one that they can knock off the Cougars if everything works out. Can you see that kind of playing out?
Look, they've been close,
yeah.
Right? It's not like they've been getting blown out. We know what the record is, and they haven't won since the opening game against Southern Utah. But, they made it really interesting against USC. They nearly won at Cal. Then there was the Colorado game where they were right in it till the end. And then last week. So, look, people could say and be frustrated with the record that Arizona State has and with Kenny Dillingham this year. But they've been competitive, even though I really believe they're outmanned. They're out-talented right now. But nobody can question how hard this team is playing. And that's a tribute to the locker room, the kids that they have in that program, and they believe in the coaches. And I'm sure there is a lot of motivation to get a win because you look at the schedule, all right, where are the wins going to come from? You look at the matchup with Arizona maybe at the end of the year because that's in Tempe. It's going to be awfully tough next week going to Salt Lake City and then going to UCLA and then having a game against Oregon at home. So if you're circling dates, when can Arizona State win? I think this is a game that they have to look at, but they're so beat up, especially in the offensive line. I really worry about them just from a physical standpoint and depth standpoint. How are they going to match up and hang in there?
Roxy, and watching Wazoo and Cam Ward, 3 losses in a row. You've had a chance to pay attention more so than any of us, but that U of A game, I caught some of that. They looked listless on the offensive side. What has happened in the last 3 games that we didn't see the first 3 games of the year?
Well, first off, that was stunning. That what
Yes.
Arizona did going up to the Palouse and doing that. I don't think anybody anticipated that. And they really haven't responded since. Look, last week, I thought they played okay, but they're going up against a team that I think is a legitimate threat to the college football playoff in Oregon. They hung with UCLA a few weeks ago. So the thing is about them, they got off to the good start. It's set up right for them. They were playing efficiently offensively. Cam Ward seemed to have made the adjustments from a year ago. Last year, he would try to make something happen on every play and didn't really lean on the strategy of living for another down at times. And it cost him. with some bad turnovers, he can make some brilliant plays. He is a talented playmaker, and he sees the field well. It's just maybe sometimes he is too confident in his abilities to make plays, and I think he's got a better grasp of that this year with the changes in offensive coordinator. I think this new offense is there's a lot of similarities to what they were doing, but I think it really suits the skill set of Cam Ward. Look, they beat Oregon State. They beat Wisconsin for the second straight year. This is a good football team. They're a little bit banged up as well coming into Tempe, but I think we're going to get treated to a heck of a game, and they're certainly looking to get back on the right track. They're frustrated. They've lost 3 in a row coming into Tempe.
Roxy, take me to what I think is I guess, top game in the Pac-12. That's Oregon at Utah. And look, I know the Utes have a pig farmer for their quarterback, but I know it was a great quote by Winningham. It really was. But I mean, they've got a shot here to knock off the Ducks, don't they?
Oh, there's no question. Look how dominant they've been at home. And you want to talk about a team that's been just under siege with injuries. It's Utah, and it's one after the next. And finally, we got some clarity from Kyle Whittingham post-game after the USC game. Cam Rising will not play this year. Brant Keithy will not play this year. Now they've lost Lander Barton for this season. They've already lost Mekhi Bernard. We can go on and on and on with all the injuries that Utah's dealing with. But yet, here they are in this position. And a great win in how creative they were in getting Sione Vaki to play now on both sides of the ball. There's a lot of terrific coaches in this conference, but I think we can unequivocally state that Kyle Whittingham is the best coach in the Pac-12, and I don't think it's close, considering the way he has been able to have this team where they're at right now, considering everything that they've dealt with. Yes, they've won 2 consecutive league titles, but this might be his best coaching job that maybe he's ever done at Utah.
Yeah, I got to tell you what, they really exposed USC last week, Roxy. And to that point, it just seems like the defense is the nemesis for Lincoln Riley teams. We saw it at Oklahoma. We're seeing it again now. Is that just the Achilles heel that follows Lincoln Riley, or is there an explanation for what happened in that Utah game to come back and win that?
Well, I think it's twofold, Dan, to be honest with you, because I think that when you look at his teams over the years, you allude to the shortcomings they've had defensively.
Yep.
Last year, they were able to mask some of them with all the turnovers they were able to generate. And they were able to outscore teams because the defense was getting the football back for them despite all the chunks of yardage that they were allowing. This year, it's a little different because they're not so heavily in the plus side as far as the turnovers go. They led the country in turnover margin last year. That's not happening this year. And the other thing that I really think with USC, guys, it's a philosophical problem for me. When you look at them physically, they're not as big up front as Utah. They're not as big as Oregon State or Washington. Physically dominant at the line of scrimmage. USC is undersized. They're athletic, they're fast, but they're undersized, and I think it really doesn't serve them well, not just this year, but now you're going into the Big Ten, and you're going to try to play smash mouth football if you have to. Good luck if you're giving up 40 to 50 pounds at positions on the field from your defense.
Roxy, first, make sure you tell Lincoln Kennedy we said hi during the broadcast this weekend. But, for those of you who don't know, Roxy, aside from his Pac-12 duties, incredible play-by-play guy in baseball for ESPN, the Oakland A's. So with that being said, our Diamondbacks are in the World Series. You know the Rangers quite well. You know the Diamondbacks. An early prediction here the night before, what we may see here. This is Phoenix Radio.
I was around this team, the Diamondbacks, in the first couple of rounds of the playoffs. I called their wild card series in Milwaukee, and then when they swept the Dodgers. This is a young, dangerous team because they don't know that they shouldn't be doing this. To go into Philadelphia and win games 6 and 7 like they did, that's not supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. And this is a group that's ahead of schedule. And Torey Lovello summed it up best after that wild card series in Milwaukee when they were celebrating. And he said a connected team is a dangerous team. This is a connected team. And they have a star in the making, because if Corbin Carroll's not the rookie of the year, they just need to cancel the award because it's not even close.
Yeah.
And he is going to be an absolute star. And Gabriel Moreno, the same thing. He is going to be a star for a long time. And when you have top starters like Zach Allen, Merrill Kelly, with the bullpen as good as they've been, that's why where they're at. And we know in baseball, it's not always the best team that wins. It's a team that gets hot at the right time. It was the Phillies last year that got to the World Series as they were the last team in as the 6th seed in the National League. Well, the same thing with the Diamondbacks this year. And I don't want to say they backed their way in because they got off to that great start, but they lost their last 4 games going to the playoffs and scored a total of 3 runs. And then in each of the first 2 games in Milwaukee, they trailed by multiple runs in each of those games to come back and win. But I will put the butt on it here.
I know. You're killing me with the butt.
But, guys, look, I hope they prove me wrong because I really like Torrey. I think he's got a great staff, and this is a great group to be around. But this Rangers lineup, there is no place to breathe in it. 1 through 9, with the emergence of Evan Carter now coming in, it is, I don't want to say impossible, but it's really challenging to pitch this lineup because when you got guys like Leody Taveras hitting 9th, that goes to show you the depth of what Texas has. Now, the Rangers have some questions. They're starting pitching. Their bullpen. They're very good defensively. These are the top 2 maybe defensive teams going when you look at the fewest errors committed. So I just think this is a real tough task, though, considering the lineup that the Texas Rangers have. I'm going to take the Rangers in 6, guys. I hate to pick against the Diamondbacks because I really like this club. I think that they're going to be good for a long time. But this lineup is a really difficult group to pitch to.
Roxy, we love your candidness, man. Thanks so much for jumping on with us, man. We always appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you Saturday.
You got it. Looking forward to it. I'm heading down there tonight. Can't wait.
You got it. That's Roxy Bernstein. Follow him on Twitter at Roxy Bernstein. Hey, we need a caller to challenge one of the beautiful Twin Peaks gals here at the Scottsdale location for Peaks Picks.